So I'm going to Miami. Welcome to Miami. So in Miami today for the FP1, FP2. But before that, the banging stories. F1 Academy stepped into the Miami Grand Prix for their own second race of the season, and it was interesting. With their FP1, I think that should be their only practice. They were banging in some great laps. About few seconds away from the main Formula 1, but they did well. But the Mercedes lady, Payne, kept on showing how superior she is, and I think that girl's going to do great things. And in few years time, we hope they are able to bring in female into possibly F1 or F2, which will make it very interesting. And that is the inclusivity that we are looking at, and also for Africans to be able to partake in F1, and also our own tracks should be used as race tracks. And tomorrow will be the race in Shagamu. I urge you all to be there. You're gonna love it. It's going to be great. That's the X-Kart series race, the third race of the year. Now, upgrades. A lot of teams brought upgrades. Teams that didn't expect to bring upgrades even brought upgrades. Teams that are bringing upgrades brought more upgrades. Teams that naturally will not bring upgrades, they brought upgrades. So upgrades was calling upgrades and giving upgrades highlights that they are here. So it was so interesting seeing the upgrades that pulled up. You won't believe it. McLaren brought 9 specific upgrades and 1 track specific upgrade. 9 upgrades, and I was like, wait a minute, waiting happen. That was funny. But Red Bull brought just 1 upgrade for reliability. That is the floor edge. The floor edge has been removed in order to save weight, and that's the only upgrade they brought. But going to Mercedes brought 4 upgrades. The floor body for performance and for local load, that is the track specific. Also cooling louvers is a circuit specific because of the heat in Miami. And the front wings, they've reduced the chord of the front wings. That's a revision. Then the front suspension, they've made a small tweak on the track rod angle of attack. Those are the upgrades from Mercedes. Ferrari, I thought they were bringing upgrades. They threatened bringing upgrades, but no updates. They didn't bring any upgrades. McLaren, like I said, upgrades, we're calling upgrades. Front wing, a new and completely revised front wings. Front suspension, new front suspension geometry. Front center, a revised front brake duct and winglet for the front corner. The floor body, a completely revised floor body. I think everybody is trying to do few things just to make their car better. Side inlet pods, coke engine cover, cooling louvers. But there are 2 upgrades. They brought full upgrade on Lando Norris's car and half upgrades on Piastri's car. The Haas brought upgrades. The floor body also. The stake team brought upgrades. The front wings and the rear wing. The Aston Martin brought upgrades. They brought the front wing, the coke engine cover, the rear wings, the beam wings, and chassis scoop. The Visa Cash App RB V-Carb brought upgrades. They brought the diffuser and the floor body, and also they upgraded their car to a chameleon color. What looks nice. The Williams brought upgrades. That's the front wings. This is a new option to trim a trailing edge of the rearward element of the front wing. And Alpine, no upgrade. The only upgrade Ferrari brought was the HP color blue painted on their car, and it looks beautiful. And on the wheel cover, it looks beautiful for them. And if you're looking at it from outside, you think it's not so good, but it looks beautiful. Another thing being talked about is this Andre Newey issue. If I sit down and talk about Andre Newey issue, it will take a whole lot of time. It might take 3 hours because he has achieved a lot. 13 drivers championship, 12 constructors championship. That is massive. In 20 years he has been with Red Bull, he's achieved about 7 of those championships with Red Bull. He's won with McLaren. After he left McLaren, the leftover he left with Lewis Hamilton was able to make some great things with. He's had a great track record, and leaving Red Bull, and Chris Horner is telling us it's not because of the rift or the fight or whatever. We know he's been longing to leave. Will he be joining another team? Ferrari is the major team that we are looking at him. Like John, though James Vowles has been speaking with him to come back to Williams. At 65 years old, next year will be 66. He needs some time to think over his life and think over himself to see what he will do with his life and with the knowledge that he has. And I think he should give about 5-6 years of the knowledge back remaining to the sport before he retires. To people like us, so that we can keep knowing more, and to a lot of young people out there, because that man is so talented. Great achievement, great record. Anywhere he goes to, he brings dynamic reliability and greatness. Even when Red Bull were suffering with engine from under at a particular point in time and Renault, the car was still competitive, and thanks to his aerodynamic intelligence. Some have said the RB19 and RB20 were not majorly part of his achievement, but the suspension he designed, the rear bar elements he designed, and those things that he designed that aided the floor to work perfectly and some part of the car to work perfectly. So I won't say it's not part of the success. It's been a very great part of that success, and he has done a great job with Red Bull than Red Bull should think. Now, looking at the FP1 and the sprint, the FP1 first before we go to the sprint. The FP1 was a little bit not really the way we think it should be, but it looks cool. With 10 minutes into the FP1, we had Charles Leclerc spinning, and the team had to tell him, not really a crash, the team had to tell him to switch off the engine, and it was told out with red flag up, and Max Verstappen having a lot of time to get himself set up, either by the wind, tire lockup, some changes were done to his setup, and he got that right, and later in the race, he came P1 in the FP1. But the Mercedes seems to work better here. They are looking fine. The upgrades they brought, really we can see that on the high speed corner. They are looking competitive unlike past races, especially on the first sector, which has a lot of high speed corner. The Mercedes are looking very, very competitive, and we hope they can roll out on through the weekend and through the races before they bring more upgrades and learn more from the little things they've brought. The McLaren, the upgrade seems to be working well. The half upgrade on Piastri in FP1 worked better than that on Lando Norris. Not so challenging, but a little bit more competitive. Certainly, the McLaren look competitive. The Ferrari without upgrades look competitive. They were closely tied to the Red Bull, neck in neck. But in the sprint qualifying and the sprint race tomorrow will give us a more visibility on what we are looking at. The Alpine, no upgrade. They look a little bit better. Other teams like Visa Cash App, RB, that brought a bunch of upgrades to lead the way on the lower class teams. They look competitive, but the Alpines are looking much more better, I think. Of our struggles, we'll look at the sprint race and see what they are bringing and how better these teams would perform and showcase the breadth, the length, and the greatness of their car. And I hope that will give us a very competitive weekend, a great weekend. But the great weekend will start from us seeing how these cars will perform in sprint qualifying and the sprint race tomorrow, and also in the main qualifying for us to know who will win the race. But this race is looking unpredictable. From what I can see, it's looking unpredictable because a lot of things can set in. The wind, because the Red Bull have shaved a lot of things off and they look much lighter, which means without loads on the rear, the wind can tilt them because the kind of wind we have in Miami can be a worse enemy to them. But what do I know? Let's get to the sprint qualifying and the sprint race. Then we know who is doing better and who is doing much better. But up until sprint race. Now, sprint qualifying, something about sprint qualifying is it gives us different dynamics, and the dynamics really came in. Let me quickly double down on the F1 Academy. The F1 Academy, they had their FP2, their practice 2, and it was awesome. The Mercedes struggled, came 6th. But Pulling did a pretty job. She did a pretty job in that FP2. The McLaren also, Bustamante, she did a pretty job. These ladies are really doing a great job. I can tell you, watch out for the F1 Academy. They are doing a great job. And I could see Puma also on track. They have a team on track. I could see so many, about 2 or 3 fashion designing team on track, which is very great. I think that is great to see. And back to Andre Newey. Andre Newey was interviewed immediately after the FP1, and he gave his reason that he just needed to have some time, this 1 year, to have it for himself before he thinks of either joining a new team or not. But I think that one is old enough to be deceiving me. I think he already knows where he's going to or what he wants to do. Doesn't just want to break it down or to push it to Red Bull. They know he might be going to another team, but they're just trying to keep it low profile till maybe early next year or middle next year when he leaves, and he just dropped the bomb that I'm going to join this team. Never do I. Wow, when did he start thinking about that? Bro, whatever, he has been thinking about it since last year that I wanted to leave. He knows what he's doing, and they were able to hold him down, force him to sign the contract in 2025, and he opted out. He was smart enough to opt it out. You can't kill me. Now, for the sprint qualifying, it's very difficult to know from 16th to 20, but I think we're having Gasly on 16, Zhou Guanyu 17, Sargent possibly 18, Bottas 19, and Albon 20, or Albon 19, Bottas 20. Albon's time was deleted. Bottas might be penalized for infringement, and that went. But the Mercedes struggled with the medium tire. They really struggled with the medium tire. It shows that they were struggling with the medium tires, and on the high speed, they were having a better performance than other races. But I think what they were lacking is still that rear. They lacked the rear, and the drivers were struggling on the rear. But on the slow speed corners, hey, they were not there. They were not there at all. They struggled all through. And Norris, Piastri, the McLaren were splendid on the medium tire. They were doing well. As Lando Norris took P1 in SQ1. In SQ2, the 2 Mercedes PM, they were out 11th and 12th. Hey, Mercedes are out. They struggled all through on the medium medium tire. From the SQ1 to SQ2, they were struggling. On their tire, we don't know how that one will now be for them. But during the FP1, on the soft tire, they did well. They were showing some decent pace, some great pace. They did well. But here, they were struggling, no, real struggle. And Ocon out in 13th, Tsunoda out in 15th, and Kevin Magnussen 14th. But the big news is Daniel Ricciardo, SQ2. Daniel Ricciardo was 5th. How? This is showing that Daniel Ricciardo was right about his chassis being compromised. He knows what he's saying. SQ2 he was 5th. Hey, below. So something really happened. But not surprised again. Lando Norris doing well. P1 again in SQ2. Perez, Jaramo struggled and he got it right. P2, Leclerc P3. After the way he missed out and suffered in FP1, he came back banging. Verstappen did one lap and he came in 4th. Ricciardo 5th. Piastri 6th. Others coming behind them. But Nico Hülkenberg also got into SQ3, which was no surprise because he's been dishing it out, and him being signed to Audi next year is a great deal for him. Prove himself. But SQ3 came. Everybody waited 5 minutes to come out, and they all came out on one lap. And Max Verstappen lit up his soft tire sharp, but he struggled also. He was trying to catch the tire, but at the end of the day, he came P1. Got the pole position with Charles Leclerc coming P2, Sergio Perez P3, Ricciardo P4 for sprint qualifying. That is massive. Carlos Sainz P5, Piastri P6, Lance Stroll P7, Alonso P8. Lance Stroll has qualified his teammate Alonso in sprint qualifying. That's great. Lando Norris after P1 now P9. Nico Hülkenberg P10. Now what happened to the McLaren? They were unable to get their tires lifted up. They were just sliding everywhere. The two McLaren struggled on the soft tires, in which I expect them to light up easily, but they were unable to get it lighted up and they struggled. Nico Hülkenberg did a good job, but he was 10th. But Daniel Ricciardo P4 in a V cab. Wow. That looks lightning, I can tell you. Ahead of a Ferrari, Carlos Sainz. Wow. But till tomorrow, we will see the main sprint race, how they will do. But it looks like Verstappen got this. But I can tell you, the McLarens are close and the Ferraris are looking very close also. These teams might start on medium tires or use their tires, but the soft tires look like a one-lap tire. Can't go like 2-3 laps because from the data, the soft tires goes off easily. But let's see who comes with soft tire tomorrow, what they do tomorrow. But this is looking very close between the Red Bull, the Ferrari, and the McLaren. But let's see what happens tomorrow. Up until tomorrow, I love you guys. Thank you. Bye. Chi.